Issue 21. We start off with Sonic easily defeating a bunch of Swap-Bots, as usual, only for it to be revealed that they were on a fact-finding mission about Sonic, providing data to Eggman's computer. So he's making another Sonic robot? Makes sense that he'd want to use Sonic's power in some way. He brings Snively to his new cyber-mechanoid design facility and directs his attention to a shiny metallic substance within a containment vessel there, which he calls Eve, the first of a race of intelligent and versatile, evolvanoids. Eggman, you may think you're smart, but you can't just make up words. He explains that they're robots that can learn, grow, and adapt to all situations, much like people can. Let me guess, this is the technology that Nicole runs off of. The reason this is possible is thanks to submicroscopic component parts that are almost indestructible for convenience's sake. I like how they had a text box saying that it's not drawn to scale, rather than them creating a plot hole from inconsistent art, like the time when the Freedom Fighters were in virtual reality tubes, but they had their mouths open underwater, which was obviously a pretty big plot hole, because they weren't drowning. He then uses Eve to figure out the ideal way of disposing of Sonic. We cut to Sonic spending quality time with Tails again, and Sonic practically complains about how easy fighting Eggman is for a significant amount of time. Oh god, I'm getting Colors flashbacks. Thankfully, this comic immediately proves that it's better than Colors by having Sonic get his ass handed to him right after this. With a pink robot... Pink? Really? With a pink robot coming out of the ground to surprise him and grabbing him by the leg. Is he going to injure his leg, rendering him incapable of being a threat? No, of course not. Which definitely damages Eve's credibility. She's supposed to be able to figure out the smartest, most ideal way of disposing of Sonic, and she doesn't destroy his leg, which was the source of his power. Not that I'm really complaining, I obviously want the heroes to win, but still. Sonic speeds away, commenting on how fast the robot is and taking it seriously. Take that, Colors. He uses his creativity, his second best weapon, to get rid of the robot by luring it into shooting at a tree that then falls over and crushes it. It's sweet that he calls Tails little buddy, treating him like there's an actual bond and family relationship there, rather than two college jocks broing around. See, Pontac? This is how you portray a brotherly bond. Eggman doesn't seem to care that his robot lost for some reason, and brags that Eve's special parts are actually brain cells from Eggman himself, and he used a quill plucked from an earlier battle to have body cells from Sonic the Hedgehog. So does this mean Eggman basically made a kid with Sonic? Eggman boasts that she is the perfect combination of his intelligence and Sonic's resourcefulness, which is separate from intelligence somehow. Though he at least admits that he hates to combine anything of his with his mortal enemy, so that was addressed. He talks about Eve as if she's his own daughter, and I'm not only saying this because he's bragging that she's the result of a combination of himself and someone else, but also because he actually refers to her with gender pronouns. Since when does he do that? Sonic faces another robot, this time a pink Bumblebee, even faster than the last. Are all these robots pink because Eve's a girl? Well, that's a good expression of personality. And he once again used his creativity to stop a robot by making it crash into a wall while asking if it can stop on a dime. Sonic says that it's actually the same robot that he fought earlier, but shapeshifted, I guess. Eggman brags that Eve will learn from her mistakes at fighting Sonic, and will just keep on going until she completes her programmed tasks. Okay, and then what? Will she explode? Also, Eggman saying that made me expect him to immediately be horrified at the idea that after she completes a programmed task, she might either explode or she won't complete the task and will be destroyed instead. So I was kind of hoping that he would realize how much he's worried about the idea of Eve being destroyed in her mission to destroy Sonic. But no, guess not. Sonic bursts into the room and manages to defeat Eve in her giant snake form by somehow getting into a spin dash despite being held by a snake's coil at the moment. And he twists and ties the robot into knots, while amusingly making a bunch of knot puns to the point where I wondered if we were having a repeat of the time he got all of his puns out of the way in a fourth wall breaking moment that actually worked because it was non-canon. But no, it really happened. That's how well it worked. Not sure how he's able to tie a robot snake into knots. I mean, is it Aren't robots supposed to be like really hard and solid and so you wouldn't be able to twist them around? Is it a sort of biomechanical thing? Like with skin? And this is where it starts getting shocking. Suddenly, out of complete nowhere, Eve decides to turn on Eggman for his evil after also magically being able to talk when she's formed into her Eldritch Abomination horror game form. She explains that she's being held back by Eggman because cells didn't provide her with intelligence. Yeah, right. But with evil instead, which was overpowered by what she received from Sonic. This is such a drastic and inexplicable change from being a regular psychopathic robot. Why now did Sonic's compassion kick in? And how could Eggman's contribution possibly have not provided her with intelligence? He's got literal brain cells in her. Is she just saying that? Eve tells Eggman that Sonic cells don't provide him with resourcefulness, as in his creativity, but that instead it's a learned trait. Even though he's impatient, he can still think for himself. Well, duh. How's that related? Why was she saying that as if it was an oxymoron? I guess Eggman should have expected her to have free will since he made her from living beings. But she's talking as if she already knows Sonic inside and out. And I'm sorry, that sounds like bullshit. How does she know he's impatient and compassionate? She only saw his resourcefulness, that's it. She's not omniscient, she just fought with him. Eve says that the logic from Sonic told her that she no longer needed to be his servant. Again, I'm so torn about all this. I'm happy for her, but this is so sudden, no left field. This isn't written well at all. She shoots her own creator with laser beams. Wait, if she has Sonic's compassion, why the hell is she okay with doing this? To her own father at that. And again, why is she okay with going after Sonic, which was also kind of her father? What the fuck? But yeah, she shoots him with laser beams in an act of cartoonish violence that unfortunately doesn't kill him. Oh, it does. Normally I'd be cheering and applauding, and I'm pretty sure I would have if I had read the comic at the time, but I know what happens later in the comic. I know there's an Eggman after this. Let me guess, this is when they replace Eggman with an identical one because fuck moving on to villains with actual character. We need to have generic Sin because he's the most well-known villain. So this ultimately fails to lead to anything worthwhile. This doesn't have much impact because I know this isn't going to last. Especially since, and this is another thing wrong with us being shown the happy future in the In Your Face special, we know Eggman wasn't destroyed for good by Eve in the end, but was instead subdued by the Freedom Fighters in a decisive battle that destroyed Nicole. Because we had the basic ending of the entire series spoiled for us, the reasons have every reason to be suspicious. So instead of thinking, Eggman's gone, we're thinking, how are they gonna do this one? Ooh, I know. Maybe the real Eggman will walk back into the room 2 seconds later, revealing that somehow it was a fake Eggman who was talking like the real one all along. Nah, just kidding. And then after that shocking twist, Eve does two confusing things. She calls Robotnik a threat to her existence. Okay, maybe she was right since he was the only one who could decide to delete her on a whim, since he was living with her. But why would he? How paranoid was she to think that he would? I wonder if things would have gone differently if Eggman had told her how he really felt about her. I wonder if things... probably not much if she was this crazy. And then she decides to fulfill the remainder of her programming despite saying that she is done with being his servant by trying to kill Sonic. Even though she just said she disapproved of Eggman for being evil, meaning Sonic's morality was affecting her because she actually gave a shit about that. First, she reveals she has free will by being allowed to violate a major law of robotics by killing a master. And then she goes right back to not having free will by blindly wanting to follow her order just because? What does she care about following her order from someone she doesn't have loyalty to anymore? Wasn't she supposed to be super intelligent and advanced like Nicole? This is shocking. Eve actually lets Sonic try to reason with her. Eve is just completely full of contradictions, apparently. First, she's an insane psychopath who tries to kill Sonic just like any badnik. Then she's suddenly a good guy by disapproving of Eggman's evil. And then she turns on Sonic again, only to do another 180 and become reasonable enough to listen to Sonic. I'm not sure whether Sonic's trying to reason with her because he has faith in her, or because he's desperate, not sure if he'll be able to win. Well, the former is more in character, never mind. This is a good side to him, actually bothering to try to reason with the villain for once, instead of just taunting them and attacking them like like the game Sonic probably would. And all because he sees potential in them. Fortunately, Eve is persuaded by this from her logical mind, and decides to leave the planet and go into outer space to be free, concluding the giant what the fuck moment that was her Eldritch Abomination appearance. Seriously, if she wanted to experience life and be free so badly, why didn't she try to change forms and live life as a living being instead of basically becoming a god? Like the Futurama thing that Bender found in outer space in that movie. What's she actually going to do in space? Not like there's any books to read or TV to watch. She must be bored out of her mind. If she's so super intelligent, why does she think going into space is going to accomplish anything for herself? This character makes no sense. I like how Tails is smart enough to question what they're going to do now that Mobius is free. He doesn't just cheer, he actually thinks ahead. Not sure why he's assuming so easily that the Freedom Fighters will stop being friends and hanging out just because Eggman's gone though. Oh hello Snively, I completely forgot you were there. You'd think he was acting, but that's a tear alright. So I guess he isn't? Still, this intriguing personality of his where he has no idea what to do without Snively without Eggman telling him what to do all the time, is in direct contrast with his Starscream betrayer personality where he gladly replace Eggman later on. So he's confusing as hell. And here's where Sonic and Tails make the stupidest mistake ever. Snively is almost just as bad as Eggman. But no, let's not arrest him. Let's not arrest the guy who is happily going along with everything Eggman wants to do and has no problem with it. Let's not tie him up with a rope and put him in a cell. Instead, let's fucking leave him there in Eggman's base so we can cause more harm. Idiots! I get that they're naive enough to assume he won't cause trouble, but they're still being idiots. Tails says he's worried about the possibility that Eggman isn't really gone after all, even though he literally saw him get vaporized. And Sonic agrees with him, almost as if the writers are literally putting dialogue for foreshadowing right in their mouths, rather than actually naturally saying it. I guess they're in the denial state of grief, despite the fact that they have no reason to be mourning him. Why are they so easily put into denial when Sonic's friends didn't go into denial when they thought he died? And after the obvious and out of left field foreshadowing, we see Eggman's image somehow in the sky, with no clarification of what exactly that is, like biology-wise or anything. Okay, way to completely spoil what's already been obvious to begin with. You could have at least kept the suspense going for a few more issues, instead of making it obvious that Eggman's not dead after all. This needs to be the first story written entirely by Ken Penders. And like with Ian Flynn's debut story, this one starts with a bang. He really wanted to have a grand introduction. Must have been really excited and proud to be allowed to write a comic on his own like all the other writers finally. Especially since he must have thought it was arbitrary how he was restricted to only writing with Mike Canterobeck instead of alone like everyone else. I have a lot of respect for the story, for throwing some major curveballs and having a gutsy what the fuck moment at the end. I started out the story thinking it was the introduction of Metal Sonic, or at least some kind of Sonic robot, since Eggman was collecting data on Sonic the Hedgehog again. But then it turns out it was the introduction of Eve, Eggman's robot daughter. Then after it turns out Sonic was fighting the same robot over and over that shapeshifted while learning from his mistakes, we get a really big surprise as Eve changes her molecular structure into an unnecessarily terrifying looking Eldritch Abomination. Seriously, why she decided to make herself look like that? What was the benefit? Looking like a person would have worked much better for the whole she realized she had free will and turns against Eggman story, but instead we're expected to sympathize with a terrifying monster. The biggest problem with the story is that her gaining sentience and turning on Eggman for being evil and a threat to her literally happens over the course of a second. Being so ridiculously out of left field with no build-up at all. And it makes no sense that she doesn't realize she has no reason to follow her programming until Sonic tells her, even though she revealed to herself that she had free will by being able to oppose Eggman. It was sweet that Eggman considered her to be a daughter, but that plot thread went nowhere because it was entirely one-sided and he never told her about it, if he even was aware of that at all. And again, I respect this story for being gutsy enough to vaporize Eggman. The guy deserved it. But we all know he's just gonna come back or be replaced by an identical copy anyways, both from genre savviness and from the fact that In Your Face blatantly spoiled to us that this is not how Eggman gets defeated. So this was only done for the shock value. We know Eggman's gonna come back just for the sake of it, but I appreciate that shock anyways. This comic has really grown since its awkward pun-filled beginnings. I actually liked the story quite a bit, despite how confusing and full contradictions the very end was, but the end was also so shocking and such a shocking twist and so gutsy that I ended up liking it in the end. I'm even more excited than ever for seeing what the next issues have to offer and how exactly they're going to get out of this one.